a small office, so when a homicide comes in, everyone essentially drops what they're doing, and we all work on it together. So it's a collective effort to work on these cases, and essentially a case officer is just kind of the record keeper of all the reports that come in and video that comes in. But when it comes down to decision-making time, it's a group effort.
And so following that meeting, where did you go from there?
Sergeant Buchanan and I had secured some evidence, the clothing from Good Samaritan Hospital, the additional sneaker found at 34 Fairview Road, as well as the taillight pieces discovered at 34 Fairview Road, and Mr. O'Keefe's cell phone and Miss Reed's cell phone, and him and I transported those to the office in Canton.
And when you transported them to the office in Canton, what, if anything, did you do with those items?
The 2 cell phones were given to Trooper Nicholas Garino, and the clothing was laid out on top of butcher paper to dry out in our evidence intake area. And then the bag taillight pieces were set aside in the evidence intake processing area. Sergeant Buchanan and I didn't have access to the permanent evidence locker area, so we just secured them in the temporary intake area.
Turn your attention to February 1st of 2022. Were you working in regard to this investigation on that date as well?
Yes.
And at some point, did you have occasion to go back to the Canton Police Department, specifically in the Sallyport garage area?
I did.
And what was the purpose of you going out to the Sallyport garage on that day?
Pursuant to a search warrant, we were processing Miss Reed's Lexus SUV.
The search warrant execution on February 1st. What I want to ask is between the time that you were in the garage on January 29th, 2022, and the time that you're there for the search warrant execution on February 1st, had you been in that Sallyport area of the Canton Police Station at any time in between?
No.
Now, with respect to the taillight area on the passenger side of the defendant's vehicle, what, if any, differences or what, if any things you note sort of between your observations of the taillight on the 29th versus your observations on February 1st?
Yeah, the only difference from the 29th to the 1st was snow and ice had melted from the taillight.
So as far as the condition of that particular taillight, was it in essentially the same condition that you observed it on the 29th when you observed it on the 1st?
Yes, it was still broken and large pieces missing from it.
But as far as the broken status of it and the pieces that were missing, was it any more broken or any more pieces missing from it when you saw it on the 1st versus when you saw it on the 29th?
No.
And
so this area here is, you can see the white snow. There's no red pieces of taillight, which would show up in the contrast of the white snow.
Ms. Gilman, if you could run it from there for a moment. Now, as far as the damaged area that you were discussing previous that you observed in the January 29th in the Sallyport, February 1st in the Sallyport, and then the item that was just marked as evidence, what, if anything, do you observe in the right rear passenger side taillight area of the defendant's vehicle from this video?
You can see the inconsistent lighting. If you compare it to the left versus the right, there's a gap right there.
And from what you observed from that video, does that appear to be consistent with what you observed on January 29th at the Canton Police Department, February 1st, and in the item of evidence that was just marked?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, you can take it. And with respect to each of those respective days of February 8th, 11th, and 18th, what, if anything, did you observe or recover, you and the other troopers that were present on those days?
Yeah, it was further evidence that was originally buried under the snow because of the warm temperature and the rain and the snow melting kind of revealed itself. More pieces of plastic, clear and red.